I think there was one day when I was watching the television where I found myself crying because I couldn't believe the scenes that I was seeing. And I just kept thinking, well, if that was me trying to flee a war with a child, or if it was my daughter fleeing with a child, how would I feel? What could I do to help? So when it was announced, the Homes for Ukraine scheme, I looked across the room and said to Trevor, we could do that. And you said,
yes.
Yes, we can. And that's why we did it.
Well, I met Natasha and Kasusia off the Eurostar train at St Pancras station in London. And I had a placard, you know, as you do in airports, holding up with their names on. And there was all these people coming towards me out of the doors. And then suddenly they were there. And at that point, I just was overwhelmed because there were two people standing there and they had one suitcase between them. And it brought home to me what the situation was.
Yeah, and I didn't meet them until Trevor had brought them back to Bristol and they again got out the car. And it was one of relief that they'd finally arrived, because obviously we'd been waiting 2 or 3 weeks for them to get their permission to travel letters. But it was also, again, like Trevor, I saw this one small suitcase, a suitcase that you'd put in an overhead locker, and that was it between the two of them. And I must admit, at that point, I almost cried. And I thought, get a grip. You can't cry because they're looking forward to seeing you. And it was lovely to see them, safe and sound.
Yeah.
And I must have asked Kasusia a question. So she gets my phone and, you know, gets my finger to open it up, and then she answers, and it comes across and it says, I don't want to live anymore. And Trevor and I look at each other horrified. And they're, oh, yes, you do, Kasusia. It's lovely having you here.
It's wonderful that you're here.
Yeah,
you are lovely.
You are lovely. Life is worth living.
And we do like you being here.
Yeah. And then when Natasha came down a little while later, I showed her the WhatsApp. I'd have just said, I don't like jelly.
I don't like jelly. That's
a long way to say I don't like jelly.
Yeah, because what Kasusia meant was she didn't like jelly.
Knit and Natter is a group that started up shortly after I retired, about 8 years ago. And we meet every week and we called Knit and Natter, Natter being chatting, which is what we do. Some people chat more than they knit, but that doesn't matter.
And I go out when this happens.
Yes, very safe.
On some days when Kasusia was coming home from school, and in our house was the Knit and Natter, she started to go in and talk to the ladies there.
Yeah.
And they soon got her knitting.
Yeah.
And so after a while, it became quite usual for her to go in and spend some time with Knit and Natter, doing some knitting when she'd come home from school.
Absolutely, or when it was a school holiday.
Yeah.
So it's given Kasusia, if you like, more confidence in herself, because she's mixing with lots of different women who are all sort of grandmother ages, but she doesn't mind.
And they love it.
Yeah, they love it. They love it.
Yeah.
And I think that was one thing I can say, is that despite having to use the app all the time, the other key thing I think that people must do is communicate. If you talk to your guests, I mean, like I talk to you, very open, explain something, then there's no misunderstandings. And if there's no misunderstandings, everybody gets on all right.
We were very open to working with the Ukrainians because we felt they had a very great need to be supported, and also because they were able to, culturally, they were not that different to English people.